IT workers. What is the most ridiculous your IT? You have to fix this request you've received? Old story, back in the early 90s all of Alaska's comm was via satellite. We would get notices from our providers when a solar storm was going to slow down our throughput. I went upstairs to our finance and accounting chief to tell her the nightly processes might be late due to the storm. Her response was, "Your IT just fix it." Never let her forget that she saw me as a god. Damn Jackie, I can't control the weather. The F-King solar weather no less. Our IT help desk before it was renamed the support desk eventually ended up keeping fluorescent tubes and whiteboard markers in stock because people would send complaints to the CEO that we were refusing to help when we asked them to contact the office manager for these things. The flip side is that the CEO eventually created a new email address for people to send complaints directly to him. Very few people knew that this special CEO complaints email address actually got forwarded to the office manager. People have the capacity for such unimaginable greatness. And such hard-to-believe stupidity. I was personally once reported for sabotaging a specific secretary by refusing to fix her printer. It was printing garbage. Turns out she installed an Epson color printer driver from the disk that came with her friend's new color printer on her Win95 computer so that her mono HP DeskJet printer would also print color. She reported me the third time I uninstalled the bad driver and asked her not to do it again. Greater than people have the capacity for such unimaginable greatness. And such hard-to-believe stupidity. Great quote. I've somehow become the Apple guy at my work. We recently received a batch of brand new iPad Pros and within a week, I received a repair request due to a screen malfunctioning. Turns out by screen malfunctioning they meant completely destroyed. Shattered. Like it had been continuously hit with a hammer. Lady is giving vague explanations about what happened. Talking about how it might have fallen off her desk onto the carpeted floor. But apparently this is something I can fix? She needed it for a meeting that afternoon. I had to explain that this isn't something we can fix. That all need to go through Apple for a replacement device. Shocking news. Apparently. This happened to me, too. Oh, you've used a MacBook at a previous job? Guess you're our new Apple guy. Now get this air from 2008 up to Catalina KTHX. Single quote. Back in my very early career I had this customer named Mr. Windsor. He was this grumpy older guy and everything was an emergency and he was always yelling about some IT issue he was having. The most memorable is he called us livid over some site he was getting a forbidden error on. How dare we forbid him from going to his website? I had to patiently explain that there was an issue with that site and he'd have to contact the owner. About an hour later he calls back demanding to speak to me personally. He got an email saying he had a fatal error. How dare we wish him to die? Finally figured out that he'd misspelled the email address and the fatal error was coming from the mail system. I just looked up the number to the web company and told him to call. I'd love to know how that conversation went. Anyway, a few days before Christmas we get a phone call. It's Mr. Windsor. He is slurring his words and clearly been drinking something festive. He called to apologize for being a miserable old duffer and thank us for being patient. Back to his usual miserable self after Christmas, of course. Interesting character. The power went out in our building and the owner of the company wanted to know what we were doing to get the computers up. Answer: when the power comes on. We don't need lights on to work on our computers. Lady called to report her monitor wasn't working. After troubleshooting and asking her multiple times if everything was plugged in, she finally pipes up that the monitor doesn't have the light on. The monitor wasn't plugged in and she wanted me to wake a guy up at 3 a.m. to do it because she was dressed too nicely to do it herself because she was preparing for a meeting at 6 a.m. Told her to do it herself because I was not about to wake up the on-call for that. She complained to our director and he literally laughed at her and her reasoning for wanting the on-call sent out, and she is now banned from calling in. Years ago I worked for a rather large ISP as a tech lead. A residential DSL customer called in demanding to speak to a supervisor because his internet was down and he was going to miss out on some multi-million-dollar deal if he couldn't get on the internet. He kept yelling at me throughout the call and demanded I fix it immediately. While troubleshooting the issue I could see that I couldn't reach the DSL AM his connection ran through. I advised him I would have to reach out to a dispatch center to have a tech go take a look at it. At some point he informed me that on his way home he saw that a vehicle had run off the road into one of our boxes and it had caught fire. He still said he was planning on suing our company if he wasn't able to be online to make this supposed deal of his. I passive-aggressively suggested he go to a Starbucks and wished him well with the lawsuit. Drove for 2 hours to replace a touchscreen monitor that had stopped responding. Turns out they were wearing gloves. We used to log these type of callouts as ID10T errors. Had this person never tried using their phone while wearing gloves before? It doesn't sound like that would be an uncommon frustration at this point. It's amazing how fast people's brains will shut down and go full toddler, "Mummy help me," when there is help nearby. I work in web development, maintenance. I got a call from a client who was absolutely livid when I told her that she could not take the hyperlinked text from her web page, transfer it over to their print ad, and still have it function like a link. Why can't I click the paper? The closest thing to that would probably be a QR code. But something tells me that wouldn't be good enough for them. Posted this before. But I was a remote tech and had a woman call me and wanted me to drive 6+ hours to her facility to turn on her computer. Because hitting the power button was not her job. Once had a person call into the IT desk because the soda machine stole their money. Well, was it arrested? Don't leave us hanging. I was working as a developer at a Navy contract. One morning, a Navy captain walked up to my desk. "You're Roman?" "Yes, sir. How can I help you? I got a virus in my email. So I forwarded it to you." But, why? Well, I didn't want it in my inbox. But, was it supposed to go to somebody else? You could have deleted it or notified the IT guys across the hall who deal with that type of stuff. Sir, well, you're IT, right? Sigh. Had a lady executive use her laptop bag as a wheel chock when her husband changed her tire. She ran over it. She brought it to us and said, "Make this work. I have a presentation in an hour." Then left. We took it out of the bag and it was U-shaped. We laughed at the situation. There was nothing we could do. The hard drive was even crushed. She came back and screamed at us for our incompetence while demanding another laptop, her third in 6 months. Our team lead took the laptop to the VP of technology. He brought her down to our office and made her apologize and told us she did not get any more laptops. If she wanted to work on the weekends, she had to come into the office. She was fired for sexually harassing a 17-year-old intern. His dad was a senior VP. Great story. It gets better with every sentence. I worked for an online college and a student wanted me to change his username. It was GoBugger, and you changed it to GoBugger69. Problem solved. I feel like this man and I would be friends. My dad used to work in software development. One of his coworkers had to call IT because his computer wasn't turning on. Turns out his power strip was plugged into itself. He never lived that one down. The good old infinite power loop. Commonly implemented by sales and marketing departments worldwide. Worked for a small bank, 2 IT staff including me. Drove 60 miles out to a branch to fix an issue, and while I was used to getting hit with $1 million saved up while you're here, issues I was not prepared for. The toilet is acting weird. Can you look at it while you're here? One place I worked, it was pretty much if it got electricity. It was its issue. We had to fix the water fountain that wouldn't stop running. We had to fix the coffee machine. I was called to fix a point of sale issue for a small coffee shop. The computer was fine. The wall outlet tested negative for power. The owner asked how long till I could fix it. After explaining that she needs an electrician, she started screaming at me and demanding that I fix it because it is my job. After weeks of receiving phone calls from her screaming and vulgar emails being sent, we came by, took the computer system back and cancelled her contract. All start. One time somebody at a company asked me, "Why isn't the microwave working? You're in IT after all. Fix it." I thought they were joking. But after a bit of deliberation, they were either serious or very committed to the role. Ages ago at my job we finally got a legit IT ticketing system. The very first ticket was someone saying that the bulb had burned out in their lamp and wanting an IT person to come and replace the bulb. I got a lot of mileage out of that. This isn't the most ridiculous call I have ever got. But the dumbest that I had to go into work for after hours. Got called at midnight because our only PC started beeping, so I turned it off and now it won't come back on. This is for our life flight operators, so seemingly important. Tried to get them to troubleshoot with me over the phone but got told this is an issue for someone with a computer science degree, and since I don't have one, you need to come and fix it. All I could get out of them was that it was still beeping when she tried to turn it on, and no, I won't try again because it is gave me a headache listening to it. Drove the 45 minutes into work and found that they had pushed the keyboard under a cable so it was holding down a key. Moved the keyboard and magically the beeping stopped. They were really apologetic though. They also had 3 PCs and only 2 operators at the time. Got a call the scanner in HR was broken. Thought to myself, we don't have a scanner in our. Go to the office. The lady has Word open and is holding a document to the screen, hitting enter repeatedly. I thought no one would believe me. So I brought about 5 other techs along to corroborate. What? I had a lady who brought her laptop in for a simple software repair. I fixed it and get it back to her. She calls me directly 2 days later and is absolutely irate that her camera isn't working. I explained to her that I never touched her camera, but if she wanted to come back in I would gladly take a look. She didn't want that. Even though my location is all walk up and no remote support, she absolutely wanted me to remote in and figure it out because it was working before I worked on it. I put her on hold, and as I was looking up her machine name I remembered she had electrical tape over her camera, so I picked up the phone and said, I seem to recall tape over the camera. Is that still there? She promptly hung up. And that, kids, is why daddy drinks till he passes out.